Do you ever feel like people are walking all over you and you don't have boundaries? And when you try to set them up, you feel guilty for setting that boundary and you're not sure how really to do it. And you normally feel overwhelmed and resentful for the people in your life taking advantage of you. And you're mad that you weren't able to say no. Today, we're going to be talking about boundaries, what they are, what are some common myths about boundaries, and how you can start today setting up that boundary. And if you stick with me to the end, we're going to have an added training on what a bridge is that is amazing and so life-changing that you can add to your boundary work. So let's dive in. Myth number 1, successful people don't have to worry about boundaries. This is not true. Successful people still have to work about boundaries. They still need to be aware of them and they're still going to use these tools. And sometimes they're still going to struggle. And they're still going to say yes to things that they shouldn't be saying yes to. So get out that perfectionism part of your brain. Goodbye. We don't need you anymore. It's okay not to be perfect. Myth number 2, you're either good at setting boundaries or you're not. This is also not true. You're somewhere in the middle. Either you're pretty good but occasionally fail, or you're really not great and very rarely set the boundary. So today I'm going to help you get closer to the setting boundaries well state, but no one is perfect. No one sets boundaries all the time, and that's okay. Myth number 3, setting boundaries means I'm uncaring and mean. Setting boundaries absolutely does not mean that you have no heart. It's actually a way to protect you and the people that you're working with or you're living with so that you don't feel resentful and mad at them for saying yes when you shouldn't. Now let's talk for a minute about the 3 types of repliers when it comes to setting boundaries. The first, and I feel the most common, is the rapid replier. The rapid replier immediately when they're asked to do something says yes, without checking in on themselves, without knowing if it's something that they're okay doing and feel comfortable with. They immediately say yes because they have such a deep need to say yes and to people please that person. The second is the guilt-ridden rule book. Do you know these people? If someone asks them to do something, if it's something on their rule book, they do it. They're like, oh yeah, I better help with that PTA meeting because I always do that even though I'm already overbooked, I'm already overwhelmed. They say yes to things because they feel guilty if they don't, because they have a certain rule book of things they should do to be a good person. The third type of person is the fortune teller. When someone asks them to do something, they're thinking about what's going to happen if they don't do it and all the scenarios going into the future. They don't think about themselves and how it's going to interfere with their own life. They just think about, oh no, if I say no to this, then they won't like me anymore. Then this will happen. And what if they spread this rumor? And they go on and on in this negative scenario. So we're going to talk about what a speed bump boundary looks like. So just like the speed bumps on the road, a speed bump boundary is going to give you time to process what the ask is and to see if it's something that you really want that's okay with you. So what it can look like is some people, they ask you over for dinner, and instead of just saying immediately yes, you say, hey, thanks for the invite. The first step is you acknowledge what they asked. The second step is you're going to give yourself time. Say, I'm going to need to look at my schedule. I'm going to need to talk to my spouse. I'm going to need to see if I can do that. Whatever it is, give yourself that space. The third step is give them a time that you're going to give back to them so that you're not just blowing them off. You're saying, hey, I'll get back to you about 20 minutes, or I'll let you know by Monday morning. Whatever that time limit is, set it. And then when you're done processing, if you really can do that or not, then you're going to get back with them in that time. Because if you don't do that, then you're ghosting them, and that's not really setting a great boundary. That's just ignoring people. Now that we've talked about the speed bump boundary, I want to teach you about the ABC method. This is going to blow your mind and change everything. So the ABC starts with how you feel. It can sound like, I feel uncomfortable starting this conversation, especially if it's true, right? Or I feel nervous talking to you about this. Whatever it is, that feeling that you're having, let it out. This immediately makes you feel less nervous, and it makes the other person know where you're coming from. After you state the I feel, you go into the because sometimes when we talk about money, it doesn't end well. or because I don't want you to get mad, or because I don't know how you're gonna take this. Whatever it is, state it out, and then that person immediately is gonna think to themselves, well, I'm not always mad. They're gonna try to prove that wrong, and they'll be less likely to react the way that you're afraid that they will. Then you want to directly say what's bothering you. I'm not okay with you spending so much money without talking to me. Or I'm not okay going to so-and-so's house this afternoon. It always upsets me. Whatever it is, you want to directly say what you're not okay with. So to recap, you're going to start with how you feel and then start with why, like because this and this has happened in the past, and then you're gonna say what it is that's bothering you. You're gonna stick with the ABC method, and you're going to put out what it is. Now, if you want to level it up to the next step, you're going to start a bridge. So going off the first example, I feel uncomfortable. Because sometimes in the past, when we talk about money, you get upset. I'm not okay with you spending that much money without talking to me first. Then you add the bridge, which is an ask. I really want us to talk about things if we're gonna spend X amount of money or more before we spend it. So having the ask can be respectful. You can put it anywhere in the ABC method, and you need to remember that the ask, which we're calling the bridge, is not the boundary. If they don't say yes to what you're referring, you can go back and forth and negotiate what works, but you're just asking for what you need and you're advocating for yourself. I would love to know, what was the biggest thing that you learned today? What did you learn about boundaries? And what are you going to put into place for yourself so you could start feeling better about you and have better self-confidence? Let me know in the comments below, and I will see you next time, my friend. Goodbye.